Today I thought I would show you what I get up to with planetary image processing, and I'm using software called Siril. Certainly I don't seem to encounter that many people who use it, but I think it's really great. So let's take a look. So when you launch Siril, you are confronted with a large area here on the left, which is your preview. That used to be in a separate window in the older versions of Siril, but they've integrated it now into one sort of thing. But yeah, that's the preview window here, and you can see we've got little tabs for the different channels. On your right hand side you've got kind of the controls and your sort of workflow sequence there, and I'm on Linux here, that's why perhaps the windows look a bit different if you're not used to. They'll probably look more Macy or Windowsy if you're using either of those platforms, but yeah, it should be pretty much the same. So with Siril, it pays to deliberately work somewhere. So I've got a folder here which I'm saying is home, got that little home icon. I've made a directory here for the example planet, which is Mars. So when Siril creates files for you during processing, it puts them in the place that you've assigned as home. So yes, we're in the folder I made for Mars, and now we're going to start work in the sequence. So the first thing to do is convert our file. So I've got a .mov, which is what my camera makes, but maybe you've got a sequence of stills or whatever you've got, but we're just turning it into something that Siril can work with. So we've added the .mov here, and you've got these controls for adding and subtracting files or just clearing them all up. The tooltips I find are really good in Siril. I've actually learned a lot about image processing from the tooltips. But yeah, so what are we going to call a sequence? I'm going to call it Mars Test or Demo. Mars Demo. And I'm going to hit convert. So this does take a while with my setup, because I took 12,000 images, which is a 4-minute video, because I was shooting at 50 frames per second. So yeah, time for an intermission. So here we have it. We have all of our 12,374 frames as fits images, and if you go into your file manager you'll see them all. But yes, we don't have to worry about that because Siril knows what it's doing. Yeah, so conversion in our sequence up here is done. We have converted what we wanted to convert. The next thing to do is choose the sequence. So it just created a sequence for us. So if we press search sequences here, it's going to have a look through the folder that we've selected as home. It's going to look through that folder and see what's there, and it will find the sequence that it made. There we go. So it's picked up the two sequences here, the MVI sequence and the one that we've called Mars Demo there. So we want the one that we made on purpose. We want Mars Demo. And here we have Mars in our preview window now. You can see those channels we were talking about earlier if you want to examine what's come out. And in our kind of display option type area down here, you'll see that you can change the size from normal to making it fit. You can have a look at things with false color or inverted, and this button with all the images going back into the distance is your frame list, so you can see each frame that's in your sequence, and you can take a look at what was going on with that. And this is where we will assign our reference image. So yeah, we have loaded our sequence. Next is pre-processing. Now, I don't take darks or flats for planetary. You might have to, depending on what you're up to. And certainly from a DSLR, I never have to do a bias frame. And then registration. So now Ciril's got this sequence. It's going to actually, for each frame, work out where Mars is and what quality was happening at the time. Different ways of determining that. And here's where those tooltips I was mentioning come in handy. So if we hover over the registration method, you get a full description of each different algorithm that Siril will use to look through your images, and depending on what type of processing you're doing, you might want to choose a different type of algorithm, but I'm going to go for image pattern alignment, which is for a full disk, because that's what we're dealing with here, Mars. And you drag your box over the place that Mars is, so even with all the wind wobbling it around and poor tracking, the area I've selected here is going to be more than enough. It's going to be more than enough for the algorithm to look within and find Mars. And I do choose this option, which they call simplified drizzle, and in the tooltip it tells you the proper name is super resolution stacking. So depending on your setup, you might or might not like to use that, but because in my case the camera is capturing a lower quality than image, is capturing a lower quality image than the telescope is making, I've got something to gain here by drizzling. Perhaps you don't. So yeah. I'm going to hit go register. So now it's finding Mars in each frame, looking at the quality, looking through 12,000 frames again, so just a bit of patience. There we go, so it's all done, and it's telling us the best frame is 7,798. So in our box here of in our frame list, we can type in 7798, and this is what it reckons is a good one to use for reference image, so I'm going to use that. And in the sort of workflow tabs there, you'll notice that after registration it is plot, and you can see the quality, its quality estimation there sort of varying over, that's the seeing getting better or worse, or whatever it might have been that was affecting the image. So that's it, we've registered the planet, we've picked our reference frame, and the next thing to do is stack it up. I'm going to use some stacking and going to do it by quality. I want to do about probably 15%, so that would be 1800 images. Maybe I'll just take it to 2000 with the best 17%, and then I'm going to let it do its thing. Stack. So here's our Mars stack. We can examine it in different channels there, and the first thing to do is to extract the red, green and blue channels. You can call these whatever you like, I just call them RGB because that's all I need. So now we go to RGB compositing, and in here I'll just change it to modified. Here's our RGBs, so R is R, G, G, and E. So now we have the channels kind of loaded back in. I don't know why it does this with the brightness slider here, but it kind of, this version, you probably saw at the beginning it said unstable version. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that, but yeah, when you load in the channels, it shoves the brightness level all the way over. We don't want that. I'm going to draw a little box around this because we're going to align. The reason we separated the channels and we're going to put them back together is that the atmosphere affects the colours differently. So this is, if you don't align them, you'll end up with sort of colour going a bit wrong in the way that the atmosphere has affected it. So yeah, we'll just press align, and you probably saw Mars just edged. We're looking at the red channel here. The red channel was just brought up a bit to make it all line up. And here's our RGB aligned stacked Mars. And the only thing I really tend to do next is just some wavelet transformations. So in this image of, in this menu, it's Atrue's wavelet transform. Sorry everybody for pronunciations. So you press execute and then you've got your wavelet sliders here. Now wavelets, they work on different, there's different sliders here, work on different levels of detail, as in the first slider affects the most coarse details and you're essentially applying like a sharpening, and then you go down the different levels to sixth plan there, which is affecting the most fine details. Because my Mars image is so small, like the Canon 550D shoots, which I'm using, shoots SD in this cropped mode, which I use to capture the planets. Like there isn't a whole lot to deal with in this case. The image has been, because it got drizzled, it got to get bigger, but all I need to do in this one is use the second slider. So depending on the individual case, you may have to use a combination of sliders or just experiment and see what they will do to find the one that matches with the scale of your image. But yeah, for me it's just the second one. Just bring that up. And if you go too far, you'll get white effects, artifacts coming in there on the edges, which I personally don't like. So I prefer going on the less processed side, to push it a bit more subtlety. That's just what I like. And there it is. I'm going to press apply, and that's our RGB aligned wavelet shaped stacked Mars. I will just save this as a TIFF. Mars demo.tiff. And from there I can take it into Darktable, which is, in my opinion, another really great piece of free software, and you can just do some final fine-tuning in there. If there's anything that was bothering you about the image, if you wanted to change the colour slightly, or there's other sharpness and denoising effects available in there. But yeah, so this was just one frame of an animation I made of a Martian day. So I did this, the finished animation had over 70 images of Mars in it, and I'll just talk a bit about how I made the Martian day next time. But I hope you found this useful or interesting or vaguely entertaining, and we'll see you next time. Bye.